I have a very unpopular opinion regarding golf. It's just not that popular. Now, if you're on this channel, you love it, just like I do. But the ratings say otherwise. And the truth is, golfers don't deserve the money that they're getting paid. Live golf players, way the hell overpaid. PGA Tour, a little bit more reasonable. Being that it's the week of Thanksgiving here in the US, I wanted to give the reasons why I'm thankful for LIV Golf, despite the tumultuous year that we've had on the professional golf circuit, which has caused conflict, confusion, and just people going back and forth throughout the world on the merits of LIV Golf, why the PGA Tour is washed up, opinions in between both of those. There are still some positives to take from the LIV Golf intervention into the golf world. I'll say this, a lot of the players that have left for LIV Golf were on the tail end of their career or aging superstars when it comes to Dustin Johnson. Brooks Koepka isn't washed up, but injuries had started to plague his career. Even DeChambeau, injuries had begun to slow down the momentum that he had when he first entered onto the PGA Tour. Even with the modified schedule, we'll see how their bodies recover. I'm working less weeks throughout the year, although they are having to pick up some additional tournaments on the Asian Tour to supplement their world golf rankings, but that's another video for another day. When you have these players leaving that are getting up there in age and not performing at the same rate that they always have. Let's think about Phil Mickelson, Graham McDowell, Louis Oosthuizen, Sergio Garcia, all these players that their better days are well behind them and left to go get those paydays where they don't have to play week in and week out to retain their card or make the money that they want to make. They were able to go get a lump sum in certain cases and set themselves up for a comfortable retirement when they decide to put down the club. But it allows players that are young, up and coming to shine and thrive, whether that's on the PGA Tour. Unfortunately, due to the lack of exposure on the LIV Golf Tour, not being with a major TV partner and streaming through YouTube or their website, you're just not going to see younger players come through and get the exposure that they otherwise would on the PGA Tour. Like it or not, the PGA Tour still has a better TV deal and sees more exposure. We're going to see players like Tom Kim, Cameron Young, even players that we know of like Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Scottie Scheffler. Rory McIlroy has made a resurgence, seems to be driven by the conflict between these two leagues and has had one of the best years of his career. Today, becoming number one on the DP World Tour. Again, he's had a massive resurgence, and I think you can point back to some of the conflicts and comments and the PGA Tour pushing him out front. It'll be interesting to what happens with Jon Rahm as we move along, as he seems a bit conflicted between the two, having friends on both tours, making statements against the official World Golf rankings, how the rankings should be reformatted. Either way, I don't think the PGA Tour is lacking for talent. Well, time will tell how things shape up on the LIV Tour and if they're able to legitimize their structure and how people qualify for tournaments. I think that's one of the biggest things standing in the way of its progress and becoming a legitimate tour, is that it's really still in the invitational status and not people qualifying for tournaments. But they're rumored and announced that that's going to change going into the 2023 golf season. We shall see. Another thing I am thankful for with LIV Golf is the conversation has been opened up about the hypocrisy of the business side of both of these, whether the extremes exist on either side of it. So with LIV Golf, we know it is a product that is not producing money right now. They are in the investment stage. It is not a business model that if you model that out the way it was structured this year as to how it will progress in the future, it's not a money-making venture. It is all about the sports washing that we've talked about on this channel and elsewhere. That's what it's structured to be in its current state. How that will change over time, we will see. There's rumors of change in leadership with Greg Norman possibly exiting as CEO, but that could drastically change the state that they've been, which is antagonistic, going at the PGA Tour versus a more strategic route and growing, partnering with other leagues to coincide in the same way that the PGA Tour has partnered up with the DP World Tour. You just never know with the change in leadership and a different type of leader that could bring along. On the PGA Tour side, we know that they are structured as a non-profit organization. That is laughable. You know, a lot of money does go into the coffers of that non-profit. I look at it as you would look at a church as a non-profit. You know, there's always shady churches that aren't operating above board. And I think some things have been exposed with the PGA Tour, how some money has been quote unquote found and can be funneled back into the players' pockets. Could that have been done all along? Probably so. Did they need the pressure from LIV Golf and players exiting to make that happen? Probably so. The long-term idea of people like Phil Mickelson was to create a more competitive PGA Tour. Great, he did it. And I think that the purses that we're seeing and the elevated events are commensurate with what these players are worth. Again, I don't think they're honestly worth a lot more. And we're going to talk about ratings here at the end of this video and why that hot take opinion from the beginning bears fruit when you compare it up to the other major sports. I think the PGA Tour had to make some money changes. I think LIV Golf is this lavish, over the top misrepresentation of what golf is. To it, making cut, kind of progressing through your career and earning your top spot, and the money and spoils that come with that in the form of sponsorship deals, additional opportunities off the course. I think as an indirect factor of this as well, probably even some mention from Greg Norman in regards to wanting to enter into the women's game as well. The LPGA is starting to see some spoils from some of this conflict that's happening on the men's tour. Again, Greg Norman has mentioned that they have been considering a LIV Golf for women. That would be crazy. The women's game is very deep, although the names aren't household names that we know about. If you follow golf, you know that the talent pool amongst the women's game is also very deep, and I think the names will fill in, even if people are filtered off. But today they closed out their CME Globe event and Lydia Ko ended up winning $2 million. I think that's a wonderful opportunity to grow the women's game and to see more money go into their pockets, because a lot of them truly do struggle, where you can win a ton of events out there and make a very good living, but compared to your PGA counterparts, you're doing horribly. The LIV Golf and PGA Tour fights, I think everybody's winning on the professional game as it relates to that. The fans are losing. There are certain aspects that have changed as a result of being a fan of professional golf that I think we're gonna just keep dealing with for the next couple of years as this thing sorts itself out. But I'm glad that the conversation has gotten started, and it wouldn't have happened, especially not in the public square where we're all able to see things go back and forth, the conflicts and the negotiations. I think it has really exposed what was lying underneath, and again, some hypocrisy on both sides. So let's talk about these ratings and why I don't think professional golfers are worth much more than what they're currently getting. When you look at the ratings for 2022, and this typically holds year over year minus some special events that we have throughout this year, the Olympics, and now we're entering into the World Cup season. I think we'll see some huge ratings coming from the World Cup. In the top 50 events, golf showed up one time, the final round of the Masters, until you get to 81 and 82, the last rounds of the PGA Championship and the US Open. Those were the only three golf events that registered in the top 100 of ratings in 2022, and they might even sink a little bit lower. We might see the Masters fall out of the top 50 if there's a strong World Cup final or some really contested matches. When you look at that in the NFL, let's say as a comparison, taking up the first 14 spots on that list of ratings for the year. And the NBA had 6, and that came down to the finals for the NBA. The Olympics were able to capitalize off the Super Bowl ratings, folding their coverage into that. Those are some of those oddities that may have pushed down golf a little bit more, but honestly, they're never really highly rated. Golf is still a niche sport, and while we love it, that's not the mass of America. That's where the majority of money comes from, is sponsorship deals and TV rights. Until that changes, the money that flows into golf is always going to be limited Or you're gonna have a model like LIV, which is a loss leader. There's no true business model to what LIV is doing. So get in the comments, tell me what you think about this. I just wanted to come and be thankful about something that overall I think has been a bit of a negative, or at least has taken away from some of the excitement regarding professional golf. I know I've tuned in a little bit less this year, and it's not because of a lack of talent. I'm gonna watch golfers go do their thing no matter what. The lowest tour pro is a miles ahead of an average amateur. It's just not even comparable. I had the benefit of playing in some local scramble a few years ago, and we had like a D3 player that we had gotten as a ringer, and his ball striking, driving, and just overall game were incredible. A D3 golfer. So imagine what these tour pros who are competing on the Corn Ferry and the last guy, out on the PGA Tour event. The talent level is incredible. We'll see what the future holds. Everything's not all negative. We're gonna put a positive spin on whatever we can. So today we're gonna be thankful for LIV Golf and what it has given us, even if it's not what we asked for. Hit that subscribe button. If you made it to this point, throw me a thumbs up. We'll catch you on the next video.